Remember one of the most famous anime memes here? Yamcha's death to the Cyberman in Dragon Ball is the perfect example of fans grabbing onto one moment and making it the character's entire personality. Sure, he got caught off guard, but now he's forever the guy who got wrecked by a green potato. That death pose became a meme, and now every piece of media entertainment makes fun of it, which totally overshadows the rest of what he did in the series. In FGO, the same thing happens with some characters. They get stuck in fanon as one-dimensional because of a single moment or trait, and that's all people see. Here's a look at a few FGO characters who got hit with this harsh treatment, unable to shake off things they did in previous Fate games or historical events. I've made a video like this before. Let's call it Part 1. You can check it out by clicking the link in the corner. David. David has gained a pretty unfortunate reputation, not because of anything he does directly, but more because of his son Solomon. I mean, this mostly happened after the London chapter. At that point, of course, no one knew anything about Solomon's true identity. In the game, David is portrayed as a decent archer-class servant with strong support abilities. Heck, I love his kits. But fans often focus on his backstory, where Solomon, his son, becomes the king of magic and, well, the cause of a lot of problems. Remember, at the point of London chapter, no one knows Solomon's secret. Because of this Solomon's actions, David gets hit with the bad dad label in fan discussions, even though the game never actually frames him as a bad father. This has led to a fan perception of David, where he's blamed for things entirely out of his control. In reality, he's just chilling in the game, giving buffs and dodges, but fans love latching onto these ironic takes. This doesn't last long, since now we already know who Solomon really is. And also, if I'm not mistaken, in the final singularity, he said he would take responsibility by fighting with all his might. David was lucky because that treatment could be stopped, but this time, it can't. Paracelsus is such an underrated character who gets a lot of hate from the fandom, despite having a redemption arc as the Atoner. His betrayal in Fate Prototype is the main thing that sticks with fans, where he turns against Messiah Reiruken and her father. Even though Messiah saw him as a trusted friend during the Holy Grail War, Paracelsus made it clear that Magi don't have real friends, and coldly killed her father. This betrayal left a deep emotional scar on Messiah, shaping her into the more sadistic and cruel person seen later in her life. Fans often latch onto this one moment, ignoring the fact that Paracelsus has a more complex character arc later in the Fate series. In FGO, he shows a lot of guilt and tries to make amends for his past actions, but for some people, he's still just the guy who stabbed Messiah in the back. It's one of those things where the fandom just won't let him live it down, no matter how much development he gets later. Ishtar gets roasted by fans as the useless goddess, despite being a powerhouse in the Babylonia arc. The nickname mostly comes from a funny moment where she couldn't find Gugalana, the Bull of Heaven, when Gilgamesh asked her to summon it. This led to a running gag, with the joke resurfacing during the summer 2017 event, where her plan to summon Gugalana again backfired hilariously, causing more problems than it solved. The fandom loves to poke fun at this, to the point where Ishtar even got a special sprite holding a tablet, labeling her as the useless goddess. To make matters worse, or funnier, depending on how you see it, Fate's Strange Fake took the joke further. It's implied that the Ishtar in that series stole Gugalana from the FGO version, turning a running gag into actual lore. Despite her abilities and being a formidable character, these small moments are what fans tend to remember and meme about. Now we shift to Lancelot. Poor Lancelot can't catch a break, even though he tries his best to redeem himself. Despite his efforts to be a good father figure to Mash after failing Galahad, the fandom often reduces him to the deadbeat dad stereotype. His history of lusting after married women in Arthurian legend sticks with fans, overshadowing his actual abilities as a powerful Saber-class servant in the game. No matter how well he performs, that reputation follows him around, making him the butt of memes and jokes. Talking about Galahad, his reputation in FGO is a bit messy, mostly because of a confusing scene in the Moonlight Lost Room special. In that scene, it's unclear whether he's intentionally limiting Mash's abilities, which led the fanbase to interpret him as being overly righteous and dismissive. Some even jokingly suggest he's on a burn-it-all-down mentality regarding proper human history, giving him a holier-than-thou vibe. This perception has stuck with many fans, despite his actions being much more nuanced, especially since his fate is tied so closely to Mash's survival. Instead of being seen as the heroic figure who sacrificed his independence to protect Mash and humanity, Galahad gets a bad rap from fans for not living up to the hype of a chivalric savior. His occasional aloofness and the mystery around his role in Mash's power limit only worsened things, leading to a lot of memes and criticism. So, despite being a powerful and essential character, Fanon often paints him as too self-righteous, affecting how he's remembered. Now this one, Fergus has become somewhat infamous for his portrayal as the over-the-top ladies' man with a ridiculous libido. Fans either remember him fondly as the lovable sex maniac, or more harshly as the depraved bisexual. While he had moments that focused on his prowess as a warrior, like his relationship with Queen Meb or his role as a bruiser, it's his over-sexualized personality that overshadows everything. The problem is that his libido became a core part of his character in the eyes of the fandom, which only worsened with time. Things took a wild turn when his Lily version appeared as a non-player character in the Agartha chapter. This younger version, intended to be a purer and more innocent take, ended up frustrating players. Instead of being an inspiring figure, Fergus Lily was portrayed as constantly reminding others he couldn't fight women, repeatedly mentioning his training and delivering speeches only to interrupt himself with inappropriate comments about Castor of the Nightless City. Fans found this portrayal laughable, and the negative reception of this Lily version ended up tainting how players viewed his adult version as well. This fallout from Agartha was so significant that it felt like the writing team stopped caring about Fergus. Since that chapter, Fergus has been largely ignored in events and storylines, leaving him with little to no new content. His character is now strongly associated with Agartha, which many players consider one of the weakest chapters, making it harder for him to shake off the negative reputation. For this one, I'm usually hyped when talking about this waifu of mine, but not this time. In the FGO community, Miyamoto Musashi's character faced a bit of unfortunate fanon treatment based on a single moment involving Fuma Kotaro. During one of their interactions, Musashi jokingly expressed disappointment that Fuma wasn't a little younger, which some fans twisted into a meme that she's into little boys. This joke spiraled, and the community ran with the idea, leading to exaggerated fan interpretations that branded Musashi as a pedophile. Despite being a powerful and respected character, this meme tarnished her image among some fans, and now this moment has become an infamous part of her reputation in certain circles. This type of negative fanon association is not unique to Musashi. Other characters in FGO have also suffered from small moments or jokes being blown out of proportion, leading to misconceptions or undeserved reputations. Musashi's case is just one of the more unfortunate ones, because the joke doesn't reflect her true character or narrative significance. Odysseus is a servant who brings a lot to the table in terms of lore and in-game performance, yet he's mostly remembered for some rather unfortunate moments that overshadow his impressive feats. Despite his incredible mythological background, like leading the Greeks in the Trojan War and his many cunning victories, and his solid role as an antagonist in the Atlantis Lost Belt. His reputation took a hit in the fandom after two key things happened. I know you guys also thinking the same things. Come on, say it with me. First, he gets caught off guard and backstabbed by Charlotte Corday during a critical moment, which fans often joke about because of how effortlessly it happens, despite his status as a tactician. Yeah. This event is so memorable that it's sometimes the first thing people think of when discussing him, instead of his actual feats as a strategist and warrior. Secondly, Odysseus also becomes the butt of jokes for being one of the rare male characters with a cleavage window in his armor. Instead of focusing on his skills and achievements, discussions about him often turn into comments about his appearance. This cleavage window has become one of the most talked about aspects of his character, distracting from his otherwise nuanced design. What do you guys think? Who else got the Yamcha treatment in FGO? Don't forget to hit subscribe and like. Drop a comment so I don't run out of ideas, and stay motivated to bring you more fun content.